Hallie with Handmade by Hallie here. Welcome to my next video. For this project, we will need an empty jar. I happen to have this one. I believe it had cherries in it. We're going to need this rope from the Dollar Tree. We're going to need these little wood bees. I got in a package from Hobby Lobby and some extra wire, some black paint, some yellow paint, some white paint, and a couple of paint brushes, and this mineral powder to go with the yellow. Then we will also need some ribbon, and I've chosen these various yellows and blacks, and some adhesive from Dollar Tree and hot glue. So we're going to start off by painting our little bees white all over. And I did make the mistakes of painting the back side of it and then sticking it down to the cardboard. So don't paint the back side. You don't really see that part. Just paint the front and the sides if you want. So you give it all a good coat or two of the white. The wings will be the only thing that'll end up being left white, but it'll help to use less paint of the black and the yellow when we go to do that later. So we'll get these all painted and then move on to the next step. Next, we're going to use the adhesive and glue and the hot glue to get this project started. And I'm going to get my finger protectors out so I don't burn my fingers this time. So we start swirling this together and pulling it tight so we cover the entire glass jar. This jar was a jelly jar, so it was really about the right size for this project. You could even use something like a mason jar, the smaller kind. You could use a plastic jar. So I'm going to open this next package of rope from the Dollar Tree. Do the same thing and make sure that the end doesn't unravel, and then keep adding some glue and pinching it down to the rope underneath of it so that it stays together and we don't see any of the jar. And so just put some glue and keep wrapping. You'll have to let me know if you're really liking this project, and do all those things. Do the like and the subscribe and the comment and the share. So we're going to get this jar covered and then we'll be right back. So now that we have the jar completely covered, I'm going to make a small circle of the nautical rope, and I decided to make that circle just a little bit smaller. So I've got that ready. Going to put some glue on the bottom and start putting it underneath so that that will all stay in place. And I'm not too worried about that seam because we're going to cover that with glue here in a little bit. So I'm going to take some black paint and we're going to paint the inside of this. This is the opening to our beehive. And because the rope is multi-textured, it takes a little bit of extra paint. And then I'm just going to add some extra glue, like this is honey that's dripping out of our beehive. Now we will add our yellow to our bees, and this does take 2 or 3 coats to get the yellow to stand out like I want it. Then we go back in and add a second layer of the hot glue, making some drips that you'll be able to see a little bit more later when we start painting it. So while that's drying, we're going to make a little bow, and I've chosen these 3 different ribbons, and I'm going to cut them apart. I'm going to leave an extra one. That one off to the left-hand side is to go around the neck of our jar, and cutting everything apart. And this ribbon is actually doubled. It has the bee on top of the black and white check, which is kind of nice. I like the black and white check. So we're going to put that in there too. So we'll get that all ready. And then we will put the bee ribbon in there after I trim the wire off of the black. And we stack everything, stack it the way you want. And I pinch it and use one of those wire edges to wrap around the center and give a good knot. Now we're going to start to paint with the same yellow we painted our bees. And it does take 2 or 3 coats of the paint, and you have to let the paint thoroughly dry in between each of the coats of paint. You want to get it as solid as you can. I could have maybe used a sponge to do this instead of a paintbrush. That might have worked better. But as I'm painting, you'll see that little drip that I just did and the one I'm doing here. Those are easier to get with a smaller paintbrush. So that's why I chose a paintbrush. But I really do like the way that this ends up looking. Get that little drip. And it really does look like honey dripping out. And so we get that painted and let that dry all the way. And then we'll move on to the next part. So now we're going to get out our black paint pen and get that ready to go. And we're going to do the antenna black. And I'm going to make the head of the bee black. And I have to make sure that the paint is all the way dry underneath, otherwise the paint pen doesn't like to draw on top of wet paint. So this does take a couple times to get it the way I want it. I do go back in with a fine tip Sharpie and outline those wings, because that kind of matches the bees that are on the ribbon with the bow that we just made. So because the paint's a little bit wet, it interferes with the paint coming out of the paint marker, but they end up looking really cute. And when they are dry, we will put them on some wire so we can put them onto our beehive. So now we are going to put that extra ribbon around the top, and I decide I want it narrower than what it is, so I cut the sides off and then wrap it around. And I'm having problems with my new glue stick that I put in my glue gun. Sometimes they don't like to feed into the glue gun with the new one. And picking up my project, I got my fingers in the glue, so I fixed that. Now I'm going to do a little bit of clear glue, watered down, on top of the yellow paint. And we're going to do this so we can get our mineral powder to stick onto our project. And I think overall it works out really well. I like the way that it ends up looking. I might even try it one other way next time I use the mineral powder for something like this. But it takes a little bit of finesse of dipping it in the mineral powder and just getting it into the glue. Makes it stick a little bit better. And in the end, I really like it. Hopefully you're liking this project too and you want to see more videos. So if you wouldn't mind doing all those things. All right, our honey is ready, so we're ready to attach our bees. So we're going to put one right there, and we're going to get some wire around a paintbrush and glue to the back of a bee for the other two. And then I do those in varying lengths of wire. And then we're going to angle the ends of our tails of our bow. And then I did put a big black button in the center, as I've got some extra buttons hanging around in my craft room. And I'm going to put that on and start putting these other two bees. They go pretty well into the rope, and the bow decides to fall off in the process, but that's okay. And now I have got some sunflowers and some little white daisies with yellow centers. And so I'm going to prepare these sunflowers to put in our beehive vase that we've created. The sunflowers, I believe I got from Hobby Lobby, and these little daisy flowers I believe I got from Michael's. And I think they go really well together. And I like these daisies because you can push your pieces up closer or pull them apart a little bit more. And I put one in the back there, and I cut a little flower off to put on that black button, and we have a finished project. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you again next time. Don't forget to do all those things, to comment, to follow, subscribe, and share. See you next time.